Hi, this is Corey Johnston, and today's lesson is going to take place in the 15th chapter in the book of Proverbs. We're going to cover the first 17 verses, and we're going to review the 14th chapter. The way we divided it in the lesson we did close to a year ago was verses 20 through 35. We're going to review that beginning with verse 25. Now, wisdom literature has much to say about the wisdom of words. Words are a weapon of the wise. They have healing potential and constructive capability. So we do learn there is power in words. Words have more than mere meaning. They have power. A true witness saves lives, but he who breathes out lies is a betrayer. From an honest or dishonest disposition stems respectively the hero, the saver of lives, and the betrayer, the traitor. The one who's going to tell you one thing and then do another. But honesty is the best policy. It has a life-preserving potential. So a true witness we are witnesses of how God has transformed our life, so we have to be true witnesses, and we can save lives, and he who winneth souls is wise. And the fear of Yahweh is strong trust, and his children have a place of refuge. Now, the fear of Yahweh is the foundation of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, is the axiomatic assumption of Old Testament wisdom literature. Here, we read of some of the spiritual benefits. It is a source of security. It is a source of serenity. It is also a source of solace. But among the things that we are liberated from in this secure solace, place of serenity, is other fears. The fear of Yahweh is the fear which eliminates and expels all lesser fears. It puts them in perspective, and we get our priorities aligned. What right reason have we to fear men who can harm the body and kill the body when Yahweh does have the potential to send us to hell? So the fear that we are called to cultivate to him is a respectful reverence. Nevertheless, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that he can send us to hell, and a mature believer's sense of love will exceed their sense of faith. Nevertheless, fear is where we all began. The fear of Yahweh is a fountain of life, to turn away from the snares of death. So it's we read the life-preserving qualities. It's another lifesaver, and as much as a true witness is, so too is the fear of Yahweh something similar. It leads to life, the wellspring of life. It adds years to your life and more guaranteed life to your years. So the qualitative dimension is more enhanced. But to turn away from the snares of death, and we read in the 12th verse of this chapter, there is a way which seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. The fear of Yahweh protects us from ourselves, from our own stinking thinking. Our best ideas landed us in our direst predicaments, but the fear of Yahweh could have removed that. In hindsight, nevertheless, we live with the lessons learned from the mistakes of our past when we did not have this fear, and then we are better for the future for having learned that lesson. Verse 29, he who is patient has great understanding, but he who is short of spirit exalts folly. Proneness to wrath, the unprovoked proneness to wrath, is a witness of the fallen nature. It's not only a measure of wickedness, but foolishness as well. There is no reason to get excited to the point of self-defense, violent retaliation over a petty personal insult. Such people, living in a fallen world, does demand patience, and it does demand endurance. But we who understand that will know why, and we will do it with the knowledge of that understanding. But the proneness to wrath. Now, wrath can be righteous. As we're going to read a few things about wrath, both in the chapter we're going to cover and the chapter we're going to review, the one we are right now. But he also says this about wisdom and understanding and foolishness in verse 33. Wisdom rests in the hearts of him who has understanding, and among fools it becomes known. Wisdom is the top tier in the pyramid of the respective level of intelligence, the foundation of which is knowledge. The intermediary between wisdom and knowledge is understanding. Knowledge is the ability to know that something is true. Understanding knows why what is true. It has an understanding. We understand the underlying causes and connections within truth, so we have that more advanced knowledge of understanding. And wisdom sits on top of the pyramid. So if knowledge is the ability to dissect the puzzle pieces, which are analogous to items of information, wisdom combines the panoramic picture, the largest visionary perspective of panoramic, to pull the piece to make sense of the puzzle and to pull it all together. So now understanding people are not necessarily wise, but all wise people are understanding. So wisdom does rest in the heart. You have to have understanding in order to be wise. There is no skipping that step between knowledge and wisdom. So wisdom is not merely intelligence, but the intelligent use of intelligence. And it has a way of making itself known without boasting, without bragging, which is the default reflex state of reaction of foolishness. Foolishness by its very nature is self-aggrandizing, self-promoting, and self-defeating, because little does the fool know that they are only advertising to everyone in the room how much of a fool they are. Nevertheless, the wisdom of the wise becomes known even among the fools in spite of themselves. They will, they don't want to hear what we have to say, but they will learn from looking at us and observing us and notice the difference between us and them. Verse 35, the king's delight is towards a wise servant, but his wrath is towards him who causes shame. Solomon, the author of these Proverbs, was a king, and you didn't want to get on his bad side. He had the power to harm you, but he also had the power to bestow flavors. But there is such a thing as righteous wrath. We should be angry that children are starving in the world, that injustice flourishes, that inequity abounds, and that we live in a fallen world, and it is the dominion of Satan. But there is such a thing as unrighteous wrath. This is the selfish, petty, personal wrath that is unprovoked. So there is a good reason for a king to be angry, but there is also bad reasons for us to be angry as well. First verse, 15th chapter, lesson itself. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stir up displeasure. This is arranged and was known as an antithetical juxtaposition. This is one of the most common organizing patterns in Proverbs. They consist of an opposite compared to an opposite. From opposite outlooks spring opposite outcomes, and the superiority of the positive one is self-evident through the contrast. So we have before us two options. We can use harsh words or we can use soft answers. If we want to mitigate and diffuse the situation, we can do that more efficiently and thoroughly, but with a soft answer. But if we want to provoke, add fuel to the fire, make the fire rage grow, then we have to add harsh words. We have to retaliate with an equal to or greater than amount of their venom, and all that does is stirs up displeasure. So we want to be peacemakers with our words. So the lesson learned is that a soft answer accomplishes more and is better and improves everyone's situation for all parties involved, whereas a harsh word may make the one who speaks it may inflame their ego and get them their pride doing jumping jacks, but it ultimately accomplishes nothing for the collective. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge good, but the mouth of fools pours out foolishness. One of the challenges of having wisdom is to present it in a way that is attractive enough, because all the figurative dressing up cannot target some fools, but there is such a way, and it is known to the wise. So the wise know that the fools lack knowledge, that is the lower tier in the hierarchy of intelligences, but they will know how to make it look pleasing, sound good, and represent it truthfully and evangelically. Whereas the mouth of the fools by the foolishness spreads by contagion, the same as wisdom. And one of the challenges is being surrounded by fools, is that foolishness is perhaps more contagious than wisdom, if only for the fool itself, and it spreads through their example, which sets a model to be emulated. And a fool just can't help out themselves. They speak foolish, rapid fire succession, ad nauseum, ad infinitum, because they don't know any better. They're too foolish to know that they are just letting everyone know exactly how foolish they are. The eyes of Yahweh are in every place, watching the evil and the good. If that doesn't provide incentive for integrity when we think no one else is watching, nothing else will. He is an omnipresent being. That means he's capable of being anywhere in his universe at once, everywhere, all the time, and he is the all-seeing, all-knowing eye in the sky to whom we must answer to after we live this life that he has given us. And he sees everything. He sees what you do when no one's looking, and he is able to discern the evil from the good. He does not judge by the flesh. He has subterranean spiritual insight into the motive intents of the heart. So there is nothing that escapes his notice, either in the physical world or in the spiritual world. So we can sin in the spirit when we harbor evil in our hearts, and Yahweh does see all that, and he is aware and discerner of the hearts, and that is his criteria for judgment. So the sneaky sins we think we can get away with, we're really not getting it away from the one who knows all and sees all. A healing tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it crushes the spirit. Words can be weapons. They can also be medicine. They can be machines that benefit an individual who extracts some advantage from using it, or they can be medicine for another being. They can bring calm, healing, and relief. They can serve as a verbal balm of sorts that will heal the psychological and emotional scars. A word does have that potential. It does have the power to uplift and rejuvenate and just make someone whole, when their spirits are just so low. The right word from the right person, saying the right thing at the right time in the right manner, in the right context, that is a tree of life. That is a foundation of life. Life springs from such a word, such a tongue, the mouth from which it emanates. But there's that word but. That's when we know we have an antithetical juxtaposition. Perverseness, this is the opposite of healing. It is not limited to sexual perversity alone. It is just the deranged, degenerate, carnal state of mind. And if we speak those words, then that has the opposite effect of crushing the spirit. That does not bring life or healing or life or energy or anything else, but it crushes, it demolishes, and it destroys. A fool despises his father's discipline, but he who heeds reproof is clever. This is established as early as 1:7, the famous, the fear of Yahweh is the foundation of knowledge. Also, we read that a fool despises discipline. So the wise embrace discipline for its educational and remedial value and potential. They see something in it that fools don't, who can't look past a lack of immediate gratification in the painful price that they must pay in the process of being disciplined. But if we heed reproof, if we listen, if we learn from it, if we understand why we are being disciplined and that we can avoid it by avoiding the same repeated mistakes, that is a sign of maturity and cleverness. And clever does have somewhat derogatory connotations when speaking of intelligent people. For example, most infamously in Socrates' trial, he disputed the notion that he was clever. The household of the righteous is a great treasure, but the income of the wicked is trouble. There is a treasure beyond monetary value. Righteousness is its own reward. It has its own blessing. It carries its own value. But in ill-gotten gain, income of the wicked, that just brings trouble. So even one who is wicked and poor and becomes rich, they are still going to be stuck and poor because they never learned how to get it the right way. Whereas the righteousness is a treasure unto itself. It does not need to cut corners or abuse people or lie or manipulate or deceive or steal or fleece from anyone. So virtue is its own reward, but sin has a price. You can get away. It has its season. You can get away with it for a little bit, but it ultimately brings trouble. It invites trail. It creates a habit, which can create an addiction, which can create an enslavement in demonic possession. So nip it in the bud early. The lips of the wise scatter knowledge, but the hearts of fool is not so. Even though the lips of the wise, they scatter the knowledge that they have at their disposal, they can articulate the truths, the facts of life, and that's what they do. The lips are the ones that speak it, but in the hearts of the fool, it's not going to make a dent of a difference. So the heart is not, the mind will not understand what the heart is unwilling or unprepared to accept. But that does not mean that we should not scatter knowledge indiscriminately, and we should not take it personally when our message is rejected, because it's ultimately a poor reflection on the foolish for rejecting the wisdom of our ways and the wisdom of our word. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to Yahweh, but the prayers of the upright is his delight. We have two practices from two different types of people. The sacrifice, this is how in the Old Covenant believers would procure forgiveness, was through the atonement of an innocent party who had to be without blemish, representative of the ultimate atonement to come. But the wicked, they went through the motions and they thought they were good. They thought they were in the clear. They thought they were forgiven. So the fact that they were sacrificing, they could not even see. This is the condition of an apostate nation, as addressed by Isaiah in the first chapter in the book which bears his name. And so a sacrifice, the necessity of sacrifice is enough to anger Yahweh, because all sin is an abomination to him. And so if we are sacrificing with wicked motives, wicked intentions, to think we have a clear, without, when in a spirit that belittles repentance, then we are an abomination. But if we pray and we have sincere motive, remember, he is the weigher and discerner and judger of hearts. He has the subterranean spiritual insight. So he knows the contents of our prayer and the purity of our expressions, whether we are giving him lip service religion or not. If we are upright, then our prayer will be a delight. It will be a source of pleasure and satisfaction, and we cannot enhance him. We cannot improve him. He's an already perfect being. Our prayers do not add a single iota to his perfection. Nevertheless, he is an emotional being, and we do want to please him. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, and we want to please him, and the best way we can express our faith is by praying to him. That is an act of faith, that he listens, he hears, and he will answer. The way of the wicked is an abomination to Yahweh, but he loves him who pursues righteousness. This is so self-evident, the way, what else do we read? The sacrifice of the wicked. This is even more general. Just the way of the wicked, just their entire mindset, their entire frame of existence is an abomination to Yahweh. The way of the wicked is what causes the slaughtering, the sacrifice of the wicked, and every other illicit activity of the wicked and thought. And that is all wholesale, complete, and not piecemeal, an abomination. But he loves him who pursues righteousness. We have to pursue righteous. We cannot expect it to fall from the sky on a whim or a prayer. We have to deliberately and consciously seek it. We have to pray for the courage to find it, to push through and pursue it when it is challenging to do so. And we have the assurance of the love of the Father in heaven who created us. Discipline is grievous to him who forsakes the way. He who hates reproof dies. Discipline is grievous to the foolish and the wicked. They cannot look past the pain of just the act. Discipline is the infliction, the purposeful infliction of pain to deter us from our worst instincts or to repeat the same mistakes. So folly is bound up in the fool, and it has to be beat out by discipline. But discipline, now when we are disciplined by our parents, the goal is that we can become self-disciplined, because our parents aren't going to be around forever. We have to learn how to discipline ourselves without them. But if you forsake the way, if you are on the straight and narrow or on the covenant path and you take a detour or a 180 or a side tour, then you have forsaken the way, and discipline's going to sting, and you're not going to be able to get past it or grow from it or learn from it, and you're ultimately contributing to your death, your spiritual death. So we have to embrace reproof if we want to live, because he who hates reproof dies. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, and they hasten the day of their death and the severity of their status in death by forsaking the way and neglecting discipline, external or internal. The grave and destruction are before Yahweh. How much more the hearts of the sons of men? His panoramic omnipresence extends both the spirit world and the matter world, the life that we have and the life that awaits us. So if hell and all these things are before him, then how much closer are we, the hearts of the Son of Men, when and hell is created for the hearts of the Son of Men that don't meet his standards or criteria, who die in their sins, unrepentance, without coming to the cross, without kneeling, just content to be their own masters and sign up for their own self-destructive destiny by choosing to be their own God. So hell is necessary because such people exist. A scoffer does not love his reprover, nor does he go to the wise. A scoffer is one who treats trivially that which demands to be taken seriously, so reproof is a serious thing. That's when someone's saying something that is addressing a deficiency you may not perhaps be aware of, but a scoffer's going to brush it off. They're going to want nothing to do with it. They're not going to listen to it, learn from it, grow from it, accept it, embrace it. And the company that they keep, a scoffer hangs around with the foolish and the wicked. They don't want anything to do with the wise, nor do the wise want to do with them. The feeling is more or less mutual, although the wise have to take the initiative of winning the scoffer over to the wisdom of a better way of doing things. A glad heart makes good a face, but by sorrow of heart the spirit is stricken. In 1225 we read that anxiety pollutes the heart. Here we read the positive, a glad heart, that's going to put a smile on your face. So the smile, every exterior thing has an interior cause, and so if your heart is glad, then your smile will be sincere and unfeigned, and it will be good a face, not the cheap knockoff, the smile, the fake it till you make it smile. It will be a genuine smile. And by the opposite emotion, there is a polarity and extreme in emotional experience. Sorrow of the heart, the same heart that feels gladness and rejoices also feels sorrow. It is the emotional center, the nucleus, if you will, outside of which no emotion, whether good or bad, can be experienced. And so these things add up, and they have different effects. This is a contrast. Remember, look for the word but. So two things, two outcomes, two outlooks, and two results. Two outcomes. The heart of the understanding one seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on folly. Much as the ones who are beloved by Yahweh pursue righteousness, so too do the understanding seek knowledge. So understanding, remember, is the middle level tier. It is above knowledge. So an understanding person cannot not be knowledgeable, but a knowledgeable person is not necessarily understanding. But an understanding person will understand that their understanding is connected to the knowledge. So they will seek it out. They will try to array themselves with as many items of information which are analogous to arsenal in their disposal for the war which wisdom rages between folly. But the mouth of the fools, they're going to go where they want to go. Foolish people are attracted to foolish sirens, and they gravitate around foolish things, and this is their area of common interest, much as the wise. And the way that we can determine the quality of conversational counterpart is great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, base minds discuss people. So foolish people, if you are around people who are gossiping, that is a violation of the Decalogue. Bear false witness is not only thou shalt not lie, but also thou shalt not gossip. So you got to gravitate around to the right people who are talking about the right things, and if you don't get rid of the wrong friends, you will never make the right friends. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but gladness of the heart is a continual feast. Glad heart, we read that in verse 13, the gladness of the heart. This produces a feast without end. Now, we have emotional appetites and spiritual appetites and capacities that have to be fed and can be satisfied. So the gladness of which he speaks is more than an ephemeral flickering happiness. It is a joy that endures and goes on, and it's continually replenishment. This is aligned with the living water which Jesus spoke of when addressing and confronting the woman in the well in Samaria. Continual feast, the eternal element in us does not diminish or fade. The source of status, but all the days the afflicted, they have nothing to look forward to, and it's not necessarily because they are evil that they are afflicted with evil. That's just oversimplification we do well to get rid of when reading the book of Proverbs. Better is a little with the fear of Yahweh than great treasure with trouble. Richer is the one who is rich in the spirit but poor in the things of the world than the one who is rich in the world but poor in the spirit. There is a qualitative value that is exceeding beyond measure, beyond the world's capacity to duplicate or emulate. So you have to have your priorities and values. If you can have wealth, that's fine, but if you have trouble with it, then it is not worth it. Wealth does create problems that would not be there in the absence of its existence. That's what so many people who worship money as the panacea, the end-all be-all, God. They think on it constantly. Money is the God of the world, but all we need is God himself, Yahweh. Fear him, and we can have a little, and whether we abase or abound, we can be sufficiently satisfied with an abundant life here on now, with or without the wealth of the world, which often creates trouble. So it's not really worth it if we gain the whole world or lose our own soul, or even gain a small fortune and have a lot of trouble to go with that small fortune. Better is a meal of vegetables where love is than a fatted calf with hatred. The company you keep is what's going to make the difference and determine the quality and the outcome of a feast or a meal shared in common. A fatted calf is reserved for the moments of a very, very special occasion. One is reminded of the prodigal son when he returned home. His father reserved the fatted calf for him, and of course the elder brother who was faithful, analogous to the Pharisees, content to have the inheritance but hoard it. He said, "Yeah, you have never done this for me," but he says, "You have always belonged to me." But that's getting sidetracked and distracted. Love does make a difference. If you are poor but you share a meal with a woman you love, then you are better off than if you are rich and share a meal with a woman you don't love. And hatred does exist in married couples. This is why divorce is rampant. So if there is hatred in your home, get rid of it. And the hatred almost always begins in our own hearts. So get rid of that. Then, don't waste the fatted calf if the company you keep is not worthy of such extravagant expenditure. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Stay tuned until next time. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.